There is an attack upon men, and it's been going on for a long time now, and it's at a point where it's absolutely out of control. We need to understand why men are under attack and how to change it, how to stop it. It has to be stopped. I have with me Alexander Juan Antonio Cortes. Cortes. He is a personal trainer, social media figure, and the author of the upcoming book, Maxims and Axioms. I believe that's right. The largely untaught truth of adulthood. I want to talk to him about that and what it means to be a man. And Alexander, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, sir.
That's an amazing name. I mean,
yeah, it's a long name.
What do women say when you tell them your name?
They always get a thrill out of it. I think it's one of those names when you say the whole thing. It's kind of like a title. You can't really forget it.
That's for sure. Well, I appreciate you being here. I want to talk to you about your book. I first want to ask, what is a man?
A man, I characterize it as a man is a man that leads himself. I try to articulate the best that I can, but to be a complete man, you have to consider yourself of being a man of God, where you lead yourself, you protect yourself, you provide, and then you have something that you worship. So you have an integrity of being that makes up the whole. If you view being a man as something that's shallow, that's the social issue today facing masculinity. It's been demonized and made into caricature, where to be a man, to try to define masculinity, it automatically is dismissed. There's no depth to it. There's no breadth. It's something that we make fun of. It's something that society at large has been mentally entrained to make fun of. But then at the same time, like you said, we have a crisis of masculinity. We have an attack on masculinity where men are constantly essentially blamed for societal ills. But then when the question comes up of what is a man, like you just asked, that question is tossed away.
Are you a man? Well, I know you're a male. I know you have the parts and all that, but are you a man?
Yes.
And men are under attack, like 90 going north. Why are men under attack? Why are men they're the most hated species? Well, we are the most hated species on this side of heaven. Why is that?
I'd say men are under attack because men have I would say almost the God-given burden there's the burden of male performance. So whether anything goes right or anything goes wrong, men will always be blamed. That doesn't really change, throughout human history. Whether it's at a peak or low, it's always looked upon that the man is the one that is responsible for the situation. In this case, we live in a society now where we've tried to make things more egalitarian and, perhaps, quote unquote equal. But at the same time, society has gotten sicker and sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
And whose fault is that? Well, it's just the men's fault. It's all the men's fault. It's very easy, intellectually lazy kind of a argument that you can make, and people don't really question it. That's the sort of the cruel irony to it. No one questions that.
Why I've noticed too that over the years, men are allowing themselves to be destroyed. They go along with this idea that men should be sensitive, they should be feminine, they should be emotional like a woman, and you have males who are promoting that to their own destruction, where I would think that a man will fight to become even more of a man rather than fight against his own identity. Why are there men fighting against their own identity?
Well, we have a whole generation now, multiple generations of men where they've essentially been psychologically trained, you could say that way, to be pets, to work against their own best interests. They're pets. Feminism, as it started as to what it's turned into, it's created a generation of men where their whole sense of, reality themselves, their mental origin point, to think of it that way, it's women. These are men who their entire way of being is that they must, serve women. And to serve women, they have to be able to relate to women. They have to be emotional like a woman. They have to be vulnerable like a woman. and they diminish their own masculinity.
And yet, when they fall to that, into that, when they give into that way of living, the women who are encouraging them to become like women hate them for being like women, because women hate weak men. But yet, it's insane. They want you to be strong as a man should be, but they work overtime to destroy you. And when they destroy you, they now hate you for being weak.
Well, that's one of the ironies too. Is women, any man that puts women on a pedestal will always be despised by women.
Yes.
But at the same time, you have men where they're trained to think that's what a good man is. A good man is a man that puts women, on that pedestal and and serves women that way. But those same women will look upon those men with downcast eyes.
Who is training them to be this way?
Oh, I'd say the entirety of society. I mean, the media at large, the mainstream media at large, is definitely highly responsible for that. It's been a combination of both social engineering, college indoctrination, the environment of it itself. Men today, they're overweight, they have low testosterone. That's a big epidemic. So you have the media, you have the social narrative, you have the environment, you have diet you could throw in there. And all these things at large, they accumulate, they coalesce and come together. And then what's the end result? It's an emasculated man.
If men were, and women, but if men were raised by good fathers and mothers, and once they go out into the world, would they be so easily influenced by the children of the lie, meaning the liberal media, the feminists who hate men, the radicals, the Democratic Party? Would they be able to easily influence men if men were raised by good fathers and mothers?
Oh, absolutely, I believe so. A man that's raised properly by his mother and father, he is closer to his father and the father.
Yeah,
he's better able to see truth.
Yes.
Yeah, when you have men like that, those are the men that are leaders within their community, within their own lives. For all the number of emasculated men out there, you still see these men. They're trying to find something.
Yes.
They're trying to find some leader, some sense of guidance. They know maybe they can't define it out loud, but they know something is wrong because they go through life and maybe they get to a certain age and they're disillusioned. And they look to those men now who have been raised properly, taught properly, as to somebody to inspire them, somebody that they can look to and provide them a model for how they should be.
How have you been able to hold on to your manhood?
I had a very good father. I had a very, very good father. If I was to credit it to one thing, I had a father that he's a very masculine man. He's a provider. He's a husband. He's someone that takes care of his children. He's somebody that has always been in a position of leadership in every profession and every job he has had, regardless of what it was. He's had a pretty diverse life. My father's a physician at this stage in his life, but I've always used that as a model for myself. That regardless of my own failures as a human being, as I've gone through my life and tried to grow, I have a model of way of being that a man must lead himself, and that is incontrovertible to me. It's never been a question in my mind that, am I a man? A lot of men are uncomfortable to even be asked that. Are you a man?
That's right.
They can't answer it. They feel uncomfortable. And that should be something that should be so automatic within yourself.
Have you been attacked for being a man and proud to be a man and standing up as a man? Have you been attacked for that?
It's definitely been divisive, especially over the last few years as the political atmosphere. Everything is politicized now. That's gotten hot. I would say, strangely enough, in my my daily life, physical life, it's given me a sense of security. For all the attacks on masculinity, men will always look to men. Men and women will always look to men with a capital M to be the leaders.
Yeah.
So it's put me in a advantageous position, I would say, with reality. At the same time, online and then, privately, it's definitely made me a divisive figure, not by my own intention of being so, but because it's very triggering for people.
Yeah.
It very, very much is.
Alexander, I've noticed that most men, not all, but most men are afraid to stand up to women. They're afraid to tell the woman the truth about herself. They're afraid to strongly disagree. they become little boys when dealing with their girlfriends or live-in girlfriends or wives, or out in the public when they're dealing with women. Why is that? Well, first, have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a very common problem I have with the men that I mentor and work with. Very common problem.
Why are they
Yeah,
afraid of women?
yeah. Well, these men, because they've been trained to have this pedestal kind of mentality. You could call it. It's almost like an Oedipus complex. They're like the scared little boy it's too close to his mother.
Yeah.
So to defy a woman is to say no to mama in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's unhealthy, and then they take that with them their whole life. And and for these men, their idea of being good with women is that they don't disagree with them ever about anything.
And
So,
when they do that, they bring out the worst in the woman. She goes when they don't deal with them with honesty and truth and bravery, which is love, they bring out the worst in the woman rather than the best in the woman.
Yeah, well, you bring out a person's vices. If you ever want a woman to disrespect you and have no respect for you, agree with her. Everything she says.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much akin almost to like the yes man kind of situation. With men, we say if you have a friend that says nothing to you, never criticizes you, never wants to offer any input on your input or advice or try to speak to you, we call that a yes man. That's not a good friend. But yet we're yes men to women. What does that bring out of them?
Yeah.
There's no sense of stability. There's no counter opinion. There's no dialogue. There's no communication. There's no understanding. So whatever their vices are, it's all going to come forth and come forth and come forth and come forth.
Yes. I don't know if you would agree with me on this or not, but I say that black people, not all, but most are suffering not because of racism, that there's no such thing as racism. Racism has never existed, and it's a lie that's been made up by the children of the lie in order to control blacks and whites so that they may get power and wealth. That our battle is a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil, right versus wrong. And I remember when the government took black fathers out of the homes, because at one time black men and women got married, they worked together, they raised their children. And when they took the fathers out of the homes, the black family went to hell in a handbasket. But what I noticed is that when the fathers left, the mother was raising the boys and the girls. And now 60 years later, you have black men who act just like black women. They're very emotional, they're very angry, they're very sensitive. They are not close to the truth anymore. They can't handle anything. And I realized that you become like whomever you're angry at, whomever you resent, you become like them. And that these black men resent their mothers. And so as a result of resenting their mothers, they become like women. And it has nothing to do with race, but the spirit of the person. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I would concur. I've been around the world a bit, and I've seen places where people live in vast poverty and vast wealth. You go anywhere in the world, it's easy to attribute things to racism. It's superficial, it's surface. It appeals to an emotion.
Yes.
You can just say why, because of my skin, because and that's in every country, and that's why. But that's not what it is. It's, as you said, it's a spiritual battle that the people that aspire and the people that ascend, the people that rise, they're the ones who have a depth of meaning and a clarity of truth understanding to themselves. In the black community at large, what has happened? The father has been taken out of the household. What's been the result? You have men raised by their mothers for decades now, but only a man can show a man how to be and how to act. A woman can only show a man how to be what she wants him to be.
Yep.
Not what he can be himself.
Yep. And she creates the boy in her image by being impatient with him, causing him to become angry. And the father should be there to protect his son and daughter from the mother so that she won't recreate the children in her image. Because what happens is when you resent your mother, you end up dating and living with or marrying women who are just like mama. Because when you resent your mother, you're attracted to what you hate. You become attracted to that person. And so they can't get away from it until they forgive their mothers. And we've been telling men that for a long time. It has nothing to do with race, but everything to do with the spirit and what's happening in their home. Are you a Christian?
Jewish.
You're Jewish. You don't look like a Jew.
No.
Uh,
No, I do not. I do not.
wow, he's a Jew or Jewish. That's amazing. How did you become Jewish?
No, I was born a Jew. My mother's Jewish, and it's matrilineal. It goes back. So yeah, I've I mean that goes back to what, Abraham, essentially, more or less.
Right. And what is your father? What's
My
your
father's
father?
he's Mexican.
Oh,
Mexican.
yeah. That's why I thought you look more Hispanic or
Hmm.
Mexican than Jewish. So I'm stunned.
Yeah. I have a pretty mixed race family. It's a mix of a Jewish, Hispanic, Black, actually. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Um, you tweeted. Oh, let me ask. What's your impression of Christianity?
It's my belief. As a Jew, it's not my role to proselytize people, but on a level that human beings need to have an understanding of worship and to be close to God. Man needs Christ. Man needs Christianity.
Yeah.
You have to know what your Father is. You have to have the truth within you to bring that out of you. So, like I said, I don't preach necessarily, but when people ask me, you know, when people ask me when I work with men, largely like in regards to the realm of spirituality, or just this truth unto itself, you need to find Christ in your life. You need to find God. You need to establish that relationship, or you will always be incomplete in a way that you cannot understand until you have that crisis.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation that men are looking for something. Something is
Hmm.
missing, and they're looking for it. And I had that same void inside of me, deep down inside of me, because I wasn't raised with my father. My mother married my stepfather before I was born so that I wouldn't be born out of wedlock. But I
Hmm.
had a yearning, and for a long time, all of my life, I knew it was a yearning for my father.
Yes.
And a lot of people think it's a yearning for sex or money or career or this or that. But when it's really a yearning for the father. So when I forgave my mother for trying to turn me away from my father, and then I forgave my father for not being there, and my father and I became one. And once I forgave him, God forgave me. I became one with my earthly father, and that
Hmm.
void left. And that was like 29 years ago. And
Yes.
I have not had that void since returning to my father, which allowed me to return to God.
Hmm. That's a common thing I have with a lot of young men I work with, especially in the Black community, where they don't have a father
Yeah,
growing up. There's no father present,
yeah,
and that haunts them their entire life. I've had 45-year-old men break down crying. Where what have they wanted the whole time? They want a father that said, "I love you, and I'm here for you, and trust me,
yeah.
and you can go on." And when they don't have that, you will go down the path of every kind of vice you can. Men will worship sex. Men will worship money. Men will worship status. Men,
Yeah,
men will worship power. Anything that gives some temporary fulfillment to try and take up that void.
that's right. That's why salvation. The Bible says that we must be born again, that we must
Hmm.
return to the Father, right? And salvation is about a return to your earthly father, because men represent Christ on earth, and men are sons of God. So when you hate the son, you hate the father. So when men
Hmm.
are hating their earthly father, and women, when they are hating their earthly father, they hate God. But when they learn to forgive their earthly father, then they can return to God. You tweeted numerous maxims and
Hmm.
and axioms from your upcoming book. What are some of the
Yeah.
things you say in the book?
Yeah. The book is essentially, just to this point in my life, kind of a compendium of, short truths of adulthood where, I went through a lot of transformations myself over the years, you know, from leaving high school, seeing reality more clearly, versus the way that I was raised, to, what life has turned into.
Yeah.
You know, Truths are essentially just meant to allow you to see
Hold that for me,
truth.
Alexander. Tell the folks how to get your books, your podcast, or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, the books, podcasts, everything. I have an email list that I email people every single day, sometimes twice a day. It's just at my website, alexander juanantoniocortes.com. You can sign up there. I'm very active on Twitter. I have a Twitter account. AJA_Cortes. You can always find me on Twitter. I always have the sign up form, for the email list. But all the content goes to the email list, and the email list, of in itself, it's a massive breadth of content dealing with masculinity, mentality, physicality, lifestyle management, purpose, passion. I cover a lot of subjects, under the umbrella of health. That's the most direct place to find me. And the book will be available for pre-order this coming weekend as well.
Right on. Two quick things. We were talking about, you tweeted numerous maxims, and what kind of things do you say in your book?
Well, the book, it's about adulthood. It's things that you tend to learn the hard way. Everything you do matters. Consequences have consequences. Rarely do you ever figure out anything fully in life. Everyone you meet is going to probably be faking confidence to some level or another. The sooner you can manage your finances, the better off you're going to be in the long term.
Yeah.
When in doubt, you need to take care of your bills first. Those people who live for the weekend are probably not going to be good friends to have in the long term. This goes on, and some of it's pithy. It's humorous, but it's those sharp truths that come to you as you get older, and you realize that if I want to keep myself on a high path and aiming myself towards something, want to keep my life growing, you have to realize these things. And for a lot of people, they tend to realize them too late or after the fact.
Yeah. You also tweeted things like, people that don't take care of their cars always neglect critical relationships. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
You have a car. What does a car do? It takes you to and from places. And what I found over life, and having worked with so many clients over the years, that people that don't, the same way people who don't take care of their health at all neglect many other aspects of their life. People that don't take care of their cars, where they just let it break down, they don't get the oil change, they let the tires erode. There's details in the other relationships they have with their mother, their father, their siblings, their loved ones, where they miss things. They miss things that should have been obvious, that they could have taken care of, but they just let them go.
That's
the same
a very good point, man.
Mm-hmm. I point out a few relationships like that in the book. The same way that people who, when they don't care about what they eat at all, they do not think about it. What you eat is metaphor for everything that goes into your body. What you consume, you become. Yes. If you don't care about what you eat, there's going to be other things that you are consuming mentally, physically, spiritually. They're not healthy for you.
You indicated that, and you mentioned it already somewhat, that it's important to believe in God. Why is that so important?
Because it gives you a recognition that you, as a human being, the only thing more infinite than your own ignorance is reality in God itself. I went through a stage in my life where I was very strongly an atheist, very, very much so. And I had certain crises of character where I realized that my human ignorance, what I did not know, was so vast and so impossible to conceptualize. And I felt small in the sensibility that I realized that for me to presume to know how the world works and to know everything that is and to understand the laws of the universe, to think that as a man alive, I could know and understand all that and be a master of reality, that seemed to me, heretical in a way. How could any man be a god unto the earth?
Yep.
We can't know all things. We can barely even hold two thoughts at once.
That's a very good point. Why did you become an atheist? You weren't born an atheist. Why did you become one?
Yeah, I was raised in a very secular household when I was younger. And my parents, they did a very good job, but there was not a sense of God nor anything transcendent at all with how I was raised. And as I got older, I found in myself and in my family members just many, many, many hypocrisies with their character and their principles they live by and their ways of being. And even small things when a person says they don't believe in God, they don't believe in anything, but then they ask you for they ask you to send them good vibes.
I know.
When they're going for a job interview, things like that, or deeper on a deeper level when. My family members that, some of whom were very materially successful in life, and they had marriages, they had, they were high income earners, but there was this void of meaning for them for a lot of it. For everything that they had, they internally within themselves had nothing, and they had no orientational. They had nothing to point themselves towards that gave them any sense that this is for something. Nihilism is very pervasive that way, and nihilism and being that sort of the cynical atheist, there's a certain sort of smug arrogance to it. You think you know better than everybody else because of what you don't know and what you don't believe in. It's a very strange thing. You are most proud of the things that you don't think. Yet at the same time in your own life, you don't know what to make of anything.
I have never heard anyone explain it as well as you just done. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have about 2 minutes together. What brought you to a point to want to believe in God? What brought you there?
It was a recognition of my own selfishness, that I was not a good man. The heart of good, the heart and soul of good and evil runs down the heart and soul of every single human being. We fall towards good, we fall towards evil.
Yeah.
What side do we fall on? If we want to be good, if you are a man and you want to try to live as a good man, you have to have some sense of what is good, and you have to have a sense of gratitude. To know God is to have gratitude for living. You are alive on this earth, and everything that you do matters. And you have been here, and many, many, many men throughout history have lived and fought and died and bled, so you could be here today. Everyone that ever came before you fought and died and lived, so you could be here today.
Yeah.
So what you do right now in this life, it counts. Everything you do counts.
You are a very deep and very interesting man. I also know that you're a friend of my friend, Mike Cernovich. Mm-hmm. So it has been an honor talking to you, man.
Likewise, sir. Likewise. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
We're going to have you back. Are you in California?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you in the LA area?
I am. I'm not too far.
I'm going to have you in studio.
We can set that up, definitely.
Okay. I've truly enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much, all right?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Amazing. Wow, I'm outdone. We need men like that, folks.